You stare at the screen. The blue check marks have been sitting there for 3 hours. They mock you. You tell yourself a story, a fragile, comforting lie, that the other person is busy. You imagine them buried in a pile of urgent files, trapped in a relentless meeting, or perhaps their phone battery died exactly at the moment they read your message. You curate excuses for them because the alternative is a mirror reflecting a version of yourself you refuse to acknowledge. You are currently waiting for a validation that will never arrive. It is a slow, agonizing death of your own dignity. You think this is about their schedule, but it is actually about your position on their mental priority list. We live in an era where we are surgically attached to our smartphones. We check our notifications while eating, while commuting, while in the bathroom, and even while falling asleep. If someone has the time to exist in this digital ecosystem, they have the time to send a single word. If they choose not to, it is not a lack of time. It is a lack of interest. They haven't forgotten to reply. They have consciously decided that your message does not warrant the expenditure of their energy. The illusion of being busy is the most socially acceptable lie of the 21st century. We use it as a shield to avoid hurting feelings, but in reality, it is a weapon of exclusion. Think about the last time you were truly infatuated with someone or desperate for a specific outcome. Did you let their message sit? Of course not. You replied the moment you saw it, or you found a way to bridge the gap as soon as you were free. We make time for what we value. We treat our attention as a currency, and we spend it where we see the most return. When you find yourself staring at an open conversation thread with no reply, stop asking yourself what you did wrong. Stop obsessing over your phrasing, your tone, or the timing of your last message. You didn't do anything wrong, you just became an option rather than a necessity. The silence is not a technical glitch or a circumstantial oversight. It is a loud, ringing statement that you have drifted into the background noise of their life. You are a filler, an intermittent entertainment, someone to talk to when the more interesting options are unavailable. This realization is bitter, yes, but it is the medicine you need to stop wasting your life. We often hold on to these dead-end conversations because we fear the finality of being ignored. We cling to the hope that maybe, just maybe, they'll come back with an elaborate excuse. We wait for the "I'm so sorry, I was just swamped" text, which, ironically, usually arrives only when they need something from us. When someone gives you that excuse, you accept it because you want to keep the fantasy alive. But look at their social media. They were posting photos from a night out while your message sat in their inbox. They were active in group chats. They were liking other people's content. They weren't too busy. They were just busy doing things that didn't include you. The sooner you strip away the layers of rationalization you've built to protect your ego, the sooner you can reclaim your self-respect. It hurts to admit that you were not prioritized, but it is far more damaging to spend another hour, another day, or another week hovering over a screen waiting for someone who has already checked out of the relationship. Consider the mechanics of modern communication. An unresponded message is a boundary. It is an unwritten, silent no. It is the clearest form of feedback you can receive, even if it feels like a slap in the face. Many people fear conflict, so they choose the path of least resistance, silence. They hope you will get the hint and fade away on your own. By choosing not to reply, they're effectively telling you that they do not care enough about your connection to even provide a simple acknowledgement. When you continue to send follow-up messages or checking in texts, you are only further eroding your own value. You are begging for a seat at a table where you were never invited. The person on the other end sees these messages and feels a sense of burden, not appreciation. Your desperation creates distance. It makes them feel like you have nothing better to do than wait for their scraps of attention. It is a repulsive dynamic that drains your power and fuels their apathy. The moment you decide to stop chasing, you reclaim your dignity. The moment you stop treating their silence as a mystery to be solved, you can treat it as a message to be understood. Stop viewing your life through the lens of their absence. You are centering your self-worth on the inconsistent behavior of someone who likely doesn't even think about you half as much as you think about them. It is a classic human failing. We project our own intensity onto others, assuming that because we would prioritize them, they must feel the same. This is a false equivalence. Just because you have a capacity for deep connection or consistent communication doesn't mean the other person shares that trait. Some people are flighty, some are selfish, and some simply don't value you enough to be polite. It doesn't matter what the underlying reason for their silence is. The result is the same. They are not present. They are not invested. They are not worth the space you are giving them in your head. Every second you spend analyzing their silence is a second you are not investing in your own growth, your own goals, or in the people who actually show up for you. There is a profound freedom in realizing that you do not need anyone's permission to be important. Stop the cycle of self-betrayal. Delete the thread if you have to. Mute the notifications. Stop checking to see if they viewed your story or if they're online. These are the behaviors of someone who has lost control of their own emotional landscape. You are better than a background character in someone else's life. If someone is truly interested, they will move mountains to speak with you. If they're not, they will make excuses that sound like logic but are actually just apathy. The truth is simple. When someone wants to see you, they make it happen. When someone wants to talk to you, they find the time. Everything else is just noise. Do not accept a life where you are waiting for a notification to feel validated. You are complete without their reply. The silence is their final answer. It is time you started hearing it clearly and acting accordingly. Walk away from the people who keep you waiting. True connection is found in the people who don't force you to question where you stand. You aren't being too sensitive for expecting better. You are finally beginning to understand your own worth. The bridge is burned, and it is time for you to stop trying to cross it. The pain you feel right now is the sound of an illusion shattering. It is the sound of your pride finally waking up from a long, pathetic sleep. You have been waiting for them to tell you you matter, but you never needed them to say it. You matter because of what you do, how you live, and who you are, not because of whether or not someone decides to tap the screen to acknowledge your existence. The most liberating moment in any relationship, or the end of one, is the moment you stop demanding a response and start living as if you never needed one to begin with. You aren't losing them, you are losing the version of yourself that was willing to settle for scraps. That version of you needed to die for the new one to survive. From this point forward, let your absence be the lesson they learn. Stop waiting for the world to validate your presence. You are not busy, you are just not interested. I am not waiting, I am finally moving on.